They thought he was just a janitor. A 68-year-old man who fixed air filters and unclogged waste disposals on the edge of the galaxy. They looked at his gray hair, his limp, and his tired eyes, and they saw someone who was obsolete. Someone who didn't matter. But they made a fatal mistake. They didn't check his service record. And they certainly didn't know that the janitor was once the deadliest ghost the military had ever created. When an alien princess comes knocking on his door in the middle of the night, terrified and hunted by a shadow government, she doesn't find an old man. She finds a monster who has been waiting 20 years to be let off the leash. Get comfortable, grab a snack, and settle in. This isn't just a sci-fi story. This is a gritty thriller about why you should never, ever mess with the quiet guy in the corner. We are diving into a saga of political betrayal, secret families, and one man's war against the entire galaxy. Before we jump into the chaos on Station Meridian, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. It helps the channel grow and ensures you never miss a story like this. If you love stories where the old dog teaches the new tricks a lesson, smash that like button right now. Let's get into it. The alarm on Station Meridian didn't scream, it hummed. It was a low, vibrating frequency designed not to panic the thousands of diplomats walking the pristine, white corridors of the galaxy's most expensive peacekeeping hub. But to Elias Thorne, that hum sounded like a scream. Elias was 68 years old. His knees clicked when he walked, and his lower back was a constant map of dull pain, a reminder of a life lived too hard and too fast. He was currently wearing a grease-stained gray jumpsuit, carrying a hydrospanner that weighed more than most of the sidearms he used to carry. He was the maintenance supervisor for Sector 4, a job that mostly involved telling younger, lazier kids how to calibrate oxygen scrubbers. But today Elias wasn't walking. He was sprinting. He moved with a speed that shouldn't have been possible for a man his age. He tore through the service tunnels, ignoring the authorized personnel-only signs, sliding down ladders and vaulting over steam pipes. He knew the layout of Station Meridian better than the architects who built it. He knew that in Sector 4 Airlock D9 was currently cycling. The problem was Airlock D9 wasn't scheduled for maintenance. And according to the VIP manifest he had hacked into, just out of boredom, purely out of habit, the Valari diplomatic envoy was passing D9 right now. Elias burst onto the observation deck just as the warning lights turned from amber to a lethal, flashing crimson. Through the thick blast glass he saw them. The Valari delegation. They were tall, violet-skinned humanoids, elegant and terrifyingly fragile. In the center was Princess Alara. She looked young, barely out of her teens in human years, wearing ceremonial robes that shimmered like oil on water. She was frozen, staring at the outer airlock door. The cycling sequence had been overridden. The safety interlocks were disengaged. In 10 seconds the outer door would blow, and the explosive decompression would liquefy everyone in that corridor. Security guards were banging on the control panel, shouting into their comms, panic rising in their voices. They were locked out. System failure, one screamed. I can't stop the cycle. Elias didn't scream. He didn't panic. He shoved the young guard aside, his heavy shoulder checking the man into the wall. Move, Elias growled. His voice was gravel and old smoke. He didn't try to use the standard override. The code running this sabotage was military grade. He recognized the syntax immediately. It was a dead man's cascading loop. Standard security couldn't break it. Elias's fingers flew across the holographic interface. He didn't look like a janitor anymore. He entered a command line that hadn't existed in official databases for 20 years. It was a backdoor code from the Wraith Division, a Black Ops unit that the government claimed never existed. Access granted. Directive 9 initiated. The red lights instantly snapped to green. The hissing of the airlock seals stopped. The outer door, which had begun to shudder, locked back into place with a heavy, metallic thud. Silence rushed back into the corridor. The security guards stared at the panel, their mouths open. The sequence hadn't just been stopped. The entire operating system had been rebooted and fortified in 3 seconds flat. Inside the corridor, Princess Alara slumped against the wall, her violet eyes wide, locking onto Elias through the glass. She saw him. The gray hair, the grease stains, the calm, predatory focus in his eyes. Who the hell are you? The security guard asked, rubbing his bruised shoulder. Maintenance, Elias said, wiping his hands on a rag. You have a glitch in the subroutines. I'll write up a report. He turned to leave, his limp returning as the adrenaline faded. But he knew it wasn't over. He hadn't just fixed a glitch. He had just exposed himself. That code he used? It was a flare gun fired in a dark room. The people who wrote that malware would know someone on Station Meridian spoke their language. An hour later, Elias was in the office of Commander Harper, the station's chief of security. Harper was a sharp woman, ex-military by the book. She sat behind her desk, replaying the security footage of Elias's fingers moving at blur speed. Maintenance workers don't use encryption keys from the First Interstellar War, Elias, Harper said, not looking up from the screen. And they certainly don't override level 10 kill sequences with codes that are classified Omega top secret. Elias sat in the chair opposite her, looking bored. I read a lot of manuals, Commander. Harper paused the video and looked at him. Cut the crap. I pulled your file. It's empty. Not civilian empty. Redacted empty. You have no history before age 45. You just appeared. Who are you? Elias sighed, rubbing his bad knee. I'm the guy who just saved your VIPs from being sucked into the vacuum. You should be thanking me. I am thanking you, Harper said, leaning forward, by not arresting you for illegal cyber warfare. But I need to know what I'm dealing with. That airlock didn't malfunction. It was hacked. I know, Elias said, his voice dropping an octave, losing the tired old man facade. It was a crash code used by the Obsidian Collective. Mercenaries. Expensive ones. Harper went pale. The Obsidian Collective is a myth. They just tried to turn a princess into space dust, Commander. Myths don't leave digital footprints. Elias stood up. You have a leak in your security team. Someone local planted that code. If you want to keep that girl alive, you'll let me go back to work. I can see things in the pipes that you can't see from this office. Harper hesitated, then nodded slowly. If you step out of line, Elias, I'll throw you in the brig. If I step out of line, Commander, Elias said, opening the door, you won't even see me do it. Elias went back to his quarters, a small, cramped room in the lower decks. But he couldn't sleep. The adrenaline was gone, replaced by the cold dread he hadn't felt in decades. He sat on the edge of his bunk, staring at a holographic picture frame that was usually turned off. He flicked it on. A woman with laughing eyes and a young boy smiled back at him. Elena and Kian, his wife and son, both dead. Killed in a shuttle accident 23 years ago. Or so the official report said. In his gut, Elias always knew it was payback. The Wraith Division made enemies. Powerful ones. He turned the photo off. The past was dead. But the Obsidian Collective was here on his station. And that meant the war he thought he had escaped had finally found him. He closed his eyes, trying to rest, but 20 minutes later, his door chimed. It wasn't the standard chime of a neighbor. It was the priority override chime. Elias grabbed the hydro spanner. He kept a pistol magnet locked under his bunk, but a spanner was easier to explain, and opened the door. Standing there, flanked by two nervous-looking Velari guards, was a handmaiden. She looked terrified. Mr. Thorne, she squeaked. Yeah. Her Highness. Princess Alara. She requests your presence. Immediately. It's 0300 hours, Elias grunted. Tell her I'm off the clock. Please, the handmaiden whispered, stepping closer. She says she doesn't trust anyone else. She says you speak the language of the ghosts. Elias froze. The language of the ghosts. That wasn't a metaphor. That was the call sign of his old unit. He looked at the handmaiden, then back at his dark room. He grabbed his jacket. Lead the way. The walk to the diplomatic suites was tense. The station was in night cycle. The lights dimmed to a soft blue to simulate evening for the humans, though the station never really slept. Elias walked with his hands in his pockets, his eyes scanning every vent, every shadow, every passing crew member. His old man radar was pinging off the charts. The air felt heavy, charged with the static of unseen threats. When they arrived at the Valari suite, the luxury was staggering. Silk drapes from the moons of Kairos, water sculptures that defied gravity, it was a palace inside a tin can. But the atmosphere was suffocating. The guards were twitchy. They looked at Elias with disdain, a grease monkey in their sanctuary, but they let him pass. Princess Alara was sitting on a floating divan, staring out the viewport at the stars. She had changed out of her ceremonial robes into something simpler, a tunicked shift that made her look even younger than before. Without the heavy makeup and the crown, she looked like a scared kid. Leave us, she commanded. Her voice was soft but had a steel core. The guards hesitated. Your Highness, protocol dictates. Protocol almost got me killed 6 hours ago, she snapped, turning to face them. Her violet eyes flashed. This man saved me when your protocol failed. Leave. The guards bowed stiffly and retreated, the heavy doors sealing with a hiss. Elias stood awkwardly in the middle of the room. You know, Your Highness, inviting a maintenance worker to your private quarters in the middle of the night? People talk. Elara didn't smile. She walked over to him, studying his face. You are not a maintenance worker. I saw your eyes at the airlock. I saw your hands on the console. You are a soldier. I was a lot of things, Elias said, deflecting. Now I just fix toilets. My brother, Prince Jian, died 2 months ago, Elara said suddenly. The raw pain in her voice cut through Elias's defenses. It was a bombing at the peace summit. They said it was a radical separatist group. But I saw the security logs. The bomb was planted inside the podium. It was an inside job. Elias stayed silent. He knew where this was going. I am the last heir, she whispered, stepping closer. And tonight someone tried to space me. I have advisors, guards, generals, and I don't know who to trust. They all smile, but their eyes are cold. But you? She looked up at him. You looked angry. When you saved me, you weren't doing a job. You were angry that they tried to hurt me. Elias sighed, the weight of his years crashing down on him. He walked over to a chair and sat down without asking permission. I don't like bullies, Princess. And I don't like cowards who rig airlocks. Can I? She hesitated, her royal mask crumbling completely. Tears welled up in her violet eyes. Can I sleep? Just sleep? I haven't slept in 3 days. Every time I close my eyes, I see Jian dying. I see the airlock opening. I'm terrified. So lock the door, Elias said gently. The locks don't stop them, she cried, her voice cracking. The locks are digital. They own the digital. I need. She looked at him, pleading. I need something real. Someone who can't be hacked. Will you stay? Just sit there. Watch the door. Please. The title of the video flashed in Elias's mind, the absurdity of it. Alien princess in my room. But the reality was far more tragic. This wasn't a romance. It was a child asking for a monster to keep the other monsters away. Elias looked at her. He saw his own son, Kian, in her fear. The way Kian used to look at him during thunderstorms. Get some sleep, kid, Elias said softly. I'm not going anywhere. Elara curled up on the divan, clutching a pillow. Elias turned his chair to face the door, pulled his hydrospanner out, and started casually disassembling and reassembling it, his eyes fixed on the entrance. Within minutes, the princess was asleep, her breathing finally evening out. For the next 4 hours, Elias sat in the dark. But he wasn't idle. He pulled out a small, unauthorized datapad and began to work. He had the code signature from the airlock. He needed to find the source. He traced the routing number. It bounced through 3 shell corporations, a dummy server in the outer rim, and finally landed on a name that made Elias's blood run cold. Silas Vane. Elias nearly dropped the pad. Silas Vane. The broker. The man who sold secrets like candy. Vane was a former intelligence officer from the opposing faction during the war. Elias had spent 3 years hunting him across the neutral zone. Vane was a ghost, a sadist who enjoyed the game more than the money. If Vane was here, involved with the Obsidian Collective, this wasn't just an assassination. It was a coup. The next morning, Elara woke up looking human again. Or well-rested. She sat up, rubbing her eyes, and saw Elias still sitting there, awake, watching the door. You stayed, she said, surprised. I said I would, Elias grunted, standing up and stretching his stiff back. But we have a problem, Your Highness. I know who's trying to kill you. He showed her the name on the pad. Silas Vane. He's a broker. He supplies tech to the highest bidder. But he doesn't just sell weapons, he sells scenarios. He engineers chaos so his clients can buy the solution. Why? Elara asked. Why me? Because your family controls the dilithium trade routes, Elias explained. If you die, the trade routes go into probate. The chaos drives the price up. The Obsidian Collective buys the rights for pennies on the dollar. It's not personal, kid. It's business. Elara's face hardened. The scared girl vanished, replaced by the queen in waiting. They killed my brother for profit? Yeah. Then I want to kill them, she said, her voice icy. Help me. I can't fight an army, princess, Elias warned. I'm one old man with a wrench. You are Wraith Division, she countered. I looked it up in the Royal Archives. The ghosts who walk through walls. You aren't just a man. You are a weapon. Be my weapon. Elias looked at her. He thought of Elena. He thought of the life he lost because he tried to leave the game. Maybe it was time to stop running. Okay, Elias said. But we do it my way. No protocols. No mercy. Their planning was interrupted by a comms beep on Elias's pad. It was a direct, encrypted text message. Not from Harper. Not from maintenance. From Silas Vane. The message was simple. Hello, old friend. I see you haven't lost your touch with airlocks. Meet me in the cargo bay level 4. Alone. Or I send the file on Kian to the station director. Elias froze. The air left his lungs. The file on Kian. Kian was dead. He watched the shuttle burn. Why would Vane have a file on a dead boy? What is it? Ilara asked, seeing his face turn ashen. I have to go, Elias said, his voice trembling with a rage he hadn't felt in decades. It's a trap. But I have to go. I'm coming with you, Ilara said, standing up. No. Elias shouted, startling her. This is personal. You stay here. Lock the door. Trust no one. Elias stormed out of the suite. He didn't go to the cargo bay immediately. He went to a hidden maintenance closet in Sector 7. He pushed aside a stack of cleaning supplies and pried up a floor panel. Underneath, wrapped in oilcloth, was a matte black case. He opened it. Inside wasn't a hydro spanner. It was a suppressed kinetic pistol and a combat knife with a worn leather grip. Elias Thorne checked the magazine. Full. He wasn't a janitor today. Today the Wraith was back. Elias moved through the bowels of Station Meridian like smoke. He bypassed the security checkpoints, looped the camera feeds, and slipped into the cargo elevator that descended into the industrial belly of the station. Cargo Bay Level 4 was a cavernous space filled with shipping containers stacked like skyscrapers. The lighting was poor, flickering yellow sodium lights that cast long, dancing shadows. It smelled of ozone and stale recycled air. Elias didn't walk into the open. He climbed the stack, moving along the tops of the containers, scanning the floor below. In the center of the bay, sitting on a crate, was a man in an expensive suit. He was sipping a drink from a flask, looking bored. Silas Vane. He hadn't aged well. His face was scarred, and one of his eyes was a cybernetic implant that glowed a faint red. Flanking him were 4 heavy combat mercenaries. They were wearing full tactical armor, holding plasma rifles. Obsidian Collective soldiers. I know you're up there, Elias. Vane shouted, his voice echoing off the metal walls. You always did like the high ground. Come down. Let's chat like civilized killers. Elias didn't move. He kept his pistol trained on Vane's head. Talk from there, Silas. I hear you fine. Vane chuckled. Still paranoid. I like that. I miss our little games. The galaxy has become so boring. Everyone uses drones now. No artistry. You killed the prince, Elias shouted down. And you tried to kill the girl. Market fluctuations, my friend, Vane dismissed. But that's not why you're here. You're here because of the boy. Vane tapped a holographic projector on the crate. A grainy video flared to life in the air. It showed a cell. A sterile, white room. Inside, a young man was doing push-ups. He looked to be in his 20s. He had dark hair and fierce eyes. He looked exactly like Elias. Meet Subject 4 Alpha, Vane said smoothly. Or, as you called him, Kian. Elias felt his world shatter. His hand shook. That's a fake. I saw the shuttle burn. You saw a decoy, Vane corrected. We pulled them off the shuttle before it exploded. Your wife, Elena? She was talented. Too talented to waste. We needed her expertise in psychological warfare. So we took them. She worked for us for 10 years, Elias. To keep the boy alive. Worked? Elias choked out. Past tense, Vane sighed. She passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. Natural causes, ironically. But the boy? Kin? He's very much alive. He's here, Elias. On the station. Elias stood up on the container, exposing himself. Where? Vane wagged a finger. Leverage, old friend. You want the boy? You give me the girl. Bring me Princess Ilara. I need her biometric signature to unlock the royal vaults before I kill her. You bring her to me and you and your son can walk away. You can disappear again. Elias stared down at the man who had stolen his life. He had a choice. Save the innocent girl who trusted him, or save the son he had mourned for 20 years. You have 1 hour, Vane said, checking his watch. Or I vent the boy's cell into space. Tick-tock, Wraith. Vane and his men retreated into the shadows. Elias stood alone on the container, the silence of the cargo bay deafening. He climbed down and ran. Not to the princess. To the security office. He burst into Commander Harper's office, startling her. She reached for her weapon, but he slammed his hand on her desk. My son is alive, Elias said, his voice breaking. Silas Vane has him. He's holding him hostage to get to the princess. Harper looked at him, seeing the desperation. Elias, if Vane is here, we need a TAC team. We need to lock down the station. No, Elias shook his head. Vane has a dead man switch. If you lock down, he kills Kian. I have to play his game. But I'm going to change the rules. What do you need? Harper asked, standing up. She trusted him now. I need you to arrest the Valari ambassador, Elias said. Harper blinked. Ambassador Tharn? He's the princess's uncle. He's diplomatic immunity personified. He's the money, Elias said. Vane is the muscle, but Tharn is the client. Tharn wants the throne. He hired the Obsidian Collective. I found the financial link in the airlock code. You arrest Tharn, you freeze the accounts. Vane doesn't work for free. If the money stops, Vane panics. I can't arrest an ambassador without proof. I'll get you the proof, Elias said. But you need to be ready to kick down his door the second I send the signal. Elias turned to leave but stopped. And Harper? If I don't make it back, find my son. Please. Harper nodded grimly. Go. Elias went back to the Valari suite. Alara was waiting for him. She saw the look on his face, the mix of hope and devastating sorrow. He's alive? She asked softly. Yeah, Elias whispered. He's alive. And Vane wants to trade. You for him. Alara went pale. She sat down slowly. So, you are going to take me to him? Elias knelt before her, taking her hands. They were trembling. No. I'm going to take you to the secure panic room in the sublevel. Then I'm going to go down there and I'm going to burn Vane's world to the ground. Alara looked at him, tears spilling over. He'll kill your son. He's going to try, Elias said, his eyes hardening into steel. But he forgot one thing. He thinks I'm a father trying to save a child. He forgot that I'm a wraith. Elias stood up. Stay here. Lock the door. If I'm not back in 2 hours, you tell Harper everything. Alara grabbed his arm. Wait. She reached into her tunic and pulled out a small, crystalline pendant. This is the royal seal. It contains the encryption keys for the entire Valari fleet. If Vane wants the vaults, he needs this. Take it. Alara, I can't. Take it, she commanded. Use it as bait. Save your son, Elias. That is a royal decree. Elias took the crystal. He looked at the young girl who had more courage than half the soldiers he had served with. You're a good queen, kid. He turned and walked out. It was time to end it. Elias didn't go back to Cargo Bay 4. He knew Vane. Vane would have moved. Vane would be watching the entrances. Instead, Elias went to the environmental control hub. The giant fans that circulated air through the station. It was adjacent to the cargo sector. He squeezed through a maintenance hatch that was barely wide enough for his shoulders, crawling through grease and dust until he was directly above the ventilation grates of the cargo bay office, the only pressurized room in that sector. He looked down through the grate. There was Vane. And there, tied to a chair, battered and bruised, was Kian. Seeing his son in the flesh, older, harder but unmistakably his boy, nearly broke Elias. He had to bite his lip until it bled to keep from shouting out. Vane was pacing. He's late. The old man is losing his step. One of the mercenaries checked his comms. Sir, the ambassador's accounts just got flagged. A hold has been placed on the transfer. Vane stopped pacing. What? Who authorized that? Station security. Commander Harper. That clever bastard, Vane hissed. He went to the cops. He turned to Kian and backhanded him across the face. Kian groaned, spitting blood. Your father is trying to be a hero, boy, Vane sneered. Heroes get people killed. Up in the vents, Elias made his move. He didn't drop a grenade. He dropped a jammer, a small puck that emitted a high-frequency EMP burst. Zzz. The lights in the office died. The tactical visors of the mercenaries shorted out, blinding them with static. Elias kicked out the grate and dropped. He landed on the first mercenary, driving his combat knife into the gap between the armor plates at the neck. The man went down without a sound. The second mercenary fired blindly into the dark. Elias rolled, firing 2 suppressed shots. Thwip thwip. The mercenary dropped. Vane screamed, clutching his cybernetic eye, which was sparking from the EMP. Kill him. Kill him. Elias grabbed Kian's chair and dragged it behind a heavy desk just as the remaining 2 mercenaries opened fire. Plasma bolts chewed up the furniture. Dad. Kian whispered, his voice raspy. He squinted in the dark. Is that you? I'm here, son, Elias said, slicing the ropes binding Kian's hands. I'm here. I knew you'd come, Kian coughed. Mom said you'd come. Elias handed Kian the pistol. Can you shoot? Yeah. Cover the door. I'm going for Vane. Elias vaulted over the desk. He didn't have a gun anymore. He just had the knife and 20 years of rage. Vane was stumbling toward the exit, his cyber eye rebooting. Elias tackled him. They crashed into the metal wall. Vane was younger, stronger, and augmented with cybernetics. He threw Elias off like a ragdoll. Elias hit the floor hard, his bad back screaming in agony. Vane drew a serrated blade from his sleeve. You're old, Elias. Vane shouted, slashing. Elias dodged, the blade cutting his jacket. You're obsolete. Maybe, Elias grunted, dodging another strike. He caught Vane's wrist, twisting it using leverage, not strength. But I have something you don't. What's that? Vane snarled, headbutting Elias. Elias staggered back, blood pouring from his nose. He held up his hand. And it was the jammer puck he had recovered from the floor. He slapped it directly onto Vane's chest, right over his pacemaker implant. I have nothing left to lose. Elias activated the pulse. Vane stiffened. His eyes went wide. His cybernetics seized. He convulsed, dropping the knife, and collapsed to the floor, paralyzed but awake. Elias stood over him, breathing heavy. He looked at Vane, then down at the knife. Dad! Kian shouted. Elias looked up. The last two mercenaries were flanking them. Kian had pinned one down with suppressing fire, but the other had a clear shot at Elias. BLM. The mercenary's head snapped back. He crumpled. Standing in the doorway, holding a smoking heavy blaster, was Commander Harper. Behind her was a full squad of station security. I told you, Harper yelled over the noise. If you step out of line, I'd throw you in the brig. You didn't leave me an invite to the party. Elias slumped against the wall, sliding down until he hit the floor. He looked at Kian, who was running toward him. We got him, Elias whispered. We got him. The infirmary was bright. Too bright. Elias blinked, trying to focus. His body felt like one giant bruise. He's awake, a voice said. Elias turned his head. Sitting in the chair next to the bed was Kian. He was cleaned up, his wounds bandaged. He looked so much like Elena had hurt. Hey kid, Elias croaked. Hey old man, Kian smiled, tears in his eyes. He reached out and took Elias's hand. You look like hell. You should see the other guy, Elias smirked. Where's Vane? In a max security holding cell, Harper's voice came from the door. She walked in looking tired but satisfied. Ambassador Tharn is in the cell next to him. We found the money trail. The Obsidian Collective is being dismantled across the sector. It's a mess, but it's a good mess. And the princess? Elias asked, trying to sit up. She's waiting outside, Harper said. She refused to leave until she saw you. Elias nodded. Send her in. Alara walked in. She wasn't wearing royal robes. She was wearing a simple travel suit. She looked older, wiser. Elias, she said softly. She walked over and hugged him, burying her face in his shoulder. Thank you. You did good, Your Highness, Elias patted her back. You saved my son with that seal. I have news, Alara said, pulling back. I resigned. Elias blinked. You what? I abdicated the throne, she said, a small smile playing on her lips. I exposed my uncle, I exposed the corruption in the court. I told them I wouldn't rule a kingdom built on blood. My cousin is taking over. He's a good man. Boring but good. So what now? Elias asked. Unemployed princess? Not exactly. Alara looked at Kian, then back at Elias. Harper offered me a job. Diplomatic liaison for station security. I figure. I'm good at spotting liars. Elias laughed. It hurt his ribs, but he laughed. And you? Alara asked. Back to fixing toilets? Elias looked at Kian. I think I'm done with maintenance. Kian and we have some catching up to do. And Vane mentioned a few other obsidian cells out there. Someone needs to clean them up. Kian grinned. I know a thing or two about their operations. Mom taught me well. Elias looked at the three of them. An ex-princess, a resurrected son, and a security chief who broke the rules. It wasn't the family he expected. It wasn't the life he planned. But as he looked at Kian, he realized the old guard wasn't obsolete yet. Directive 9 is back online, Elias said, his eyes gleaming. Let's go to work. And that is the story of how a janitor brought down a galactic conspiracy. It just goes to show you never know who you're talking to. The quietest people often have the loudest histories. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that you want more sci-fi thrillers like this one. Share this with a friend who loves a good "don't mess with the old guy" story. Check out the playlist on your screen right now for more stories of humanity fighting back against the odds. Until next time, stay safe.